Welcome everyone to this Conscious Cafe event with Jan Day. We are delighted to be joined by Jan Day, and I'm your host, Judy. And we first met Jan many years ago at Conscious Cafe in the days when we could all be in the same room. And she came and gave the most wonderful presentation, and everybody loved it. But Jan's reputation had already gone before her, and so it was a real privilege then to learn from Jan, and it's a real privilege that she's here again tonight. So Jan has been a trainer in integral relationships, and she has studied and taught the subject of Tantra for nearly 40 years. Her workshops are legendary, and her workshops attract attendees from all over Europe and North America, as well as the UK. So what we're going to do tonight is Jan is going to present some ideas, and then we'll be breaking into little groups to explore some of the ideas and the experiences that we're going to have. So Jan, welcome once more to Conscious Cafe, and over to you.
Thank you, Judy. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's really lovely to see so many people. Thank you for coming. So I wanted to start by saying a little bit about what Tantra is and Neo-Tantra, because I think there's quite a lot of misunderstanding, and Tantra often gets conflated with wild sexuality, which is really not what Tantra is at all. So Neo-Tantra means new Tantra, and what that means is that we're taking the essence of Tantra and bringing it into a form where it's useful for our time. So Tantra was developed and originated in about 2000 years ago in India. And we're looking at taking the principles of that and applying it so that it's relevant for our time in the 21st century in Western Europe. And that's what's important. It's not really useful to us to try and take, to use any kind of teachings that were applicable only to India at that time. So we're looking for the most general, the essence of what's true. And the essence of Tantra is the weaving together of all that is. It means we're going to try and include everything in our growing and our consciousness. And we're going to use everything that there is to grow and to learn and to become more whole, to become more of who we are. So it's a path of bringing consciousness to everything. Now, one of the ways that that we could look at that then is to say, okay, if we want to include everything, how is it that we don't include everything? And then that gives us a clue as to the directions we could go in. So the way that we don't include everything, typically, if we go back to the definition of Tantra, including everything, and sexuality, one of the ways that we, in our culture and specifically in our religions, left things out was, in religions, usually spirituality and sexuality were separated. So you could either be spiritual and have a spiritual path, or you could indulge in sexuality, but you couldn't have both. And the beginning of Tantra was the bringing that back in so that it was included. And that feels as though it's even more important in our time now, because in even our modern religions, sexuality tends to be considered as a sinful unless it's used in very specific ways, and it's pushed down, it's not celebrated. So we definitely, one of the ways that we don't include everything is by leaving sexuality out, but that absolutely doesn't mean that we want to only limit things to sexuality, because that would exclude everything else. So we want to bring sexuality in and include it, but we don't want to limit our study to sexuality. One of the ways that we also don't include everything is by focusing either on the head, so the mind, and getting into our head and into our mind, forgetting about our body, forgetting about our heart, or focusing only on the heart and leaving out sexuality in the head, or focusing only on sexuality. And we might do that in different areas of our lives. So for example, it often happens in relationships, in couples, that especially over a period of time, the bonding and the heart connection gets very strong, but perhaps the sexuality wanes. And then very often people seek sexuality elsewhere, secretly or by agreement. And so there's a split between sexuality and heart. What we're trying to do in Tantra is bring everything together. So we're including our heart and our sexuality and the head center. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a little while. One of the ways that we don't include everything is by going into autopilot. So we go into patterned ways of behavior. So we're looking at avoiding autopilot and bringing consciousness and finding a new way of approaching every moment. So catching autopilot and the ways that we go into learned patterns. We're looking at how we limit our experience by identifying with one part of ourselves. So we might identify with the worker or with the mother or with the sexual woman, or maybe that's enough. A particular way that we identify with one part of ourselves, so that the vast array of parts of our being aren't all allowed to be included. We might limit our experience by numbing out to avoid feeling and to avoid being touched by all of life, or by ignoring our own feelings and our own needs. So for example, by saying yes when we mean no, or by saying no when we mean yes, which most of us can really relate to. And again, we'll come back to that and say some more about that later. These are all ways that we limit our experience and don't include the whole spectrum of life. And Tantra is very much about including all aspects of our being and opening us to all of experience. One of the ways we do it is by going fast. So slowing down is something that we often explore, and going at different speeds so that we're not limited to just going fast or just going slow. So we're interested in stillness, but also in movement. We limit our experience by not breathing. So you might even now take a breath and notice that as you breathe, you feel more. Some of us limit our experience by focusing just on self, or just on other, or just on the world and on some cause or activism. So again, we want to include our own experience and everything of our inner world. We want to include our relationship with an other and many others, and our relationship with the entire world, so that we're including all of experience, all of existence. So this is what I mean by including everything, the weaving together of all that is, and using everything there is to bring more consciousness, more aliveness, more life to our vast experience. So I'll go into a little bit more about the three centers. When we want to include everything, so we start with ourself. And the reason we start with ourself is because if we're not present and able to be with ourself and landing in our own being, then it's really difficult for us to be in a relationship with anyone. I have to be here if I want to be in a relationship with you. If I'm not here and landed in myself, which of course is why we did the meditation even at the beginning, to bring us all here a little bit and let go of whatever was going on before. If I'm not here, then I can't be in relationship with you. So the first stage of Tantra is always to land in ourselves. And when we do that, we break that down often into different centers. And very often we use the chakra system, which has 7 centers, but actually you can break that down even more simply into 3 centers, which would be the body center, which is the lower chakras. That includes our sex center. It includes our sexual nature, our creativity, and our desire to connect. So all of that is included in the body center. It includes our heart center, which includes our feelings, our emotional life, our love, our care and compassion, the overflowing energy of love that comes when we're in our heart center. And it also includes our head center. And in the head center, I would also include, so our head center includes our mind and our rational thinking, our ability to understand and figure things out. But it also includes the higher centers of intuition and the soul center. So our connection with spirit, all of that comes into higher mind, and our ability to connect with things that are beyond our body, beyond ourselves. That's included in the head center. So we want to be able to be with each of those centers. And we're going to do a little practice now that is going to drop us in initially into our body and then into each of the other centers, and see what we hear and what we listen to when we touch into the body. Before we go into that practice, I just want to ask if there are any questions, and say to you, if you want to ask a question as we go along at any point, please do that. I'm very happy to take questions as we go along. So see if there's anything I've said so far that you'd like to question or ask about.
Could I ask?
Yes, do.
I'm familiar with the Chinese way of looking at the centers, and I understand something about what they call the Shen, which is what you're talking about. Is it the same thing? This upper part, including the soul.
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, the Shen includes the heart as well. So it's
each system tends to make different divisions, and I think it doesn't matter how we make the divisions.
Right.
It's to make sure that we include everything.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just interested. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go into this I think we'll start with a very short practice, and then I'll give you a little bit of time to digest that, and then we'll go into a deeper practice also with the body and going into the 3 centers. So to start with, now for this, I'm going to invite you to touch and stroke your own body. And if you want more privacy for that, it's totally okay to turn your video off, or to just move out of its screen so that everyone can't see you. And it's completely okay also to let yourself be seen so that everybody can see you and to be witnessed. So feel what's right for you and do whatever is right for you. I'm going to invite you to start with just to put your arms around yourself. So to wrap your arms around yourself and feel as though you're holding yourself with love. And begin to breathe. As if you're holding a very tender being, which you are, your tender self. And just begin with your hands to stroke, as if you were holding this very small child and soothing them. And still breathe. And then very gently begin to let your arms and your hands stroke a little bit more, stroking down your arms and touching yourself. Feeling what happens when you touch yourself with love and really receiving your own touch. See if you can breathe and bring your whole attention under these hands that are touching you and receive that loving care. And then very gradually you can spread your arms, your hands out, and move your hands over your body, including every part of your body, touching yourself as the most cherished lover in the way that you would most wish to be touched, lovingly and tenderly. You can let your hands move down into your lower body. And still your breath. Notice if you stopped breathing. Include your legs. Really let yourself drink in this touch. And you might bring your hands to your face and ever so tenderly touch your face. Allowing the feelings that arise as you touch your body and bring it, feel the sensitivity. And bring yourself into more connection with yourself through your own touch. Notice if there's a yes to touching, or if there's any resistance, if anything comes up as you touch and stroke yourself, if anything that comes up that wants to push away. Okay, and now I'm going to invite you to put your hands over your belly and begin to focus in on your belly center. And very gently with your hands, I invite you to pulsate over your belly. And you might want to lie back so that you can really relax. And as you pulsate your hands over your belly, feel into what's happening in your belly. Our belly is where we often store a lot of feelings, a lot of discomfort. See what happens if there's anything, if you just put your hands there and pulsate as if you're calling to the life in your belly. Calling to the flow of energy there. And as you pulsate there, you can allow there to be, to notice where there is a yes. So if there's any yes you can have to the life of your belly, and it might be the life of the feelings there, so that you can say, yes, yes, I feel the strong emotion held in my belly. Or yes, I can feel the knot. What can you give a yes to that you're feeling there? And notice if there's any resistance, if there's any pushing away or no. And then maybe just let your hands be still for a moment. By pulsating, so I mean, if you just put your hand over your belly and then push very gently and then release it, and do that over and over again. So it's as if you're You're pushing and releasing, and you could even just vibrate ever so gently. So it's as if it's a kind of calling, as if you're calling to the life in your belly. If that's not clear, put another question into the chat. Thank you. So the movement of your hands is bringing just a very gentle attention, bringing your attention there. And it may take a little time, so breathe into it and listen with an allowingness, so without any forcing. So you're really allowing your body to speak to you and you're listening. And if nothing comes, that's also okay. Simply breathing under the hands and vibrating and listening. And then let your hands come to stillness. And take a few more breaths there, just listening, seeing if any words come, if there's anything your belly wants to say to you, like you haven't been listening to me, or there's this issue that really I need you to look at. Often we store fear in our belly. And then I invite you to bring your hands down over your genitals into the area of your sex. And just gently let your hand be there. And again, let your breath move under your hands and feel what the sensations that happen when you tune into what's happening in your sex center. And again, you can very gently pulsate. And breathe as if your breath could move right down into your sex center. What's happening there? Noticing whatever feelings arise and welcoming them with your breath, just making space. So there's nothing to do with whatever arises, just noticing and witnessing. Noticing if anything comes alive that perhaps hasn't been so alive. What would your sex center like to say to you? What needs to be heard that hasn't been heard? What does it want? So if you can let it speak, what would it say to you? And how do you feel about it? Tuning into the life of this center, which we often haven't been taught to tune into in a way that's friendly and welcoming and pleasurable. Or your creativity, the source of your most powerful energy starts in this center. The center of your wanting, the center from which you move out, move towards your desires. the center of your longing, even the center of your longing for God, starts here in this center of desire and wanting, your sex center. So let your hands just come to stillness, and for a moment just listen again with your breath moving down into your sex center. Listening to the life that's awakening there. And then move your hands up to your heart and just let your hands move over your heart. And again, just in stillness to start with. Breathing into your heart center underneath your hands. Feeling the different energy there and the flow of life in your heart center. Consciously welcoming that energy. And then beginning to pulsate there, as if you're calling to the life there. Opening to your willingness to listen to what's happening in your heart. Perhaps tears come. If they come, let them come. Perhaps joy arises. You may even find a numbness. You may find that your heart is feeling open, and you may find that you're knocking on a closed door, wishing for the door to be more open. Whatever is there, just witnessing, listening, observing, being there with the energy in your heart, whatever is there. The heart is the center of the yes of your heart to all that you are. So as you pulsate there, it's as if you're calling to that yes, calling to your heart's yes, the yes that can put its arms around all that you are and all that you bring to it. A heart that can hold all your wounding, all your hurt. A heart that can open to love. Pulsating and listening to the energy in your heart center. And then let your hands come to stillness and simply listen there. See if there's anything your heart wants to say to you. And what you can say yes to and what you experience there. And now bring your hands up to your head center. And you may want to put them over your third eye. You may want to put them at the crown, or perhaps one hand on each. And again, you can pulsate ever so gently and tune into the very center of your head, behind the third eye. Bringing your whole attention to these higher centers. You may find a wishing to open your hands around your head as if you're receiving from beyond yourself, Feel what's right that brings your attention to the very crown and the top center of intuition around your third eye. Feel what wants to happen there. If there are any words that come, anything that wants to be heard. You might feel as though you can breathe in through the top of your head, as if energy is pouring in through the top of your head. And now let your hands drift away from your body and hold them just hovering over your body. And in using your intuition, just what feels right, I invite you to put your hands on two of these centers. So we've dealt with two body centers, your sex center and your belly, your heart and your head. So choose two of those centers. So you might choose sex and heart, or belly and heart, or sex and spirit, sex and head. Put one hand on each and then just breathe and feel the sense of the connection between those two centers. What happens when you join? A sense of two centers, allowing them almost as if you could let the energy flow directly from one to the other. Finding your yes for the experience that's happening under your hands. And then very gently let your hands float away. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And take a few breaths. And notice how you're feeling now. So what I'd like you to do, to give you a little time to process and really feel and explore that experience, I'm going to ask Cora to put you into breakout rooms in groups of 3 so that you can share a little bit in a small group. So I would love to hear from some of you. How was that? Do you have any questions? What happened? What happens in your body? Do you feel more connecting? What came up for you? If you can either raise your hand by kind of waving, or if you can do at the bottom of your participant screen, in the bottom right hand corner, there should be somewhere where you can raise a digital hand if you know how to do that. Is it? Oh, there's Emma, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi there. I just thought I'd share how we're in a group of 3, and what was interesting for me is how different we all were. So I think it's that thing, isn't it? You only know what you know about yourself. So when you've only got that experience, then that's all you can relate to. So it's really fascinating then to hear somebody else's experience, and it's almost like completely different to yours. And I just find that really fascinating. I love that we're all different, by the way, but it's just, it just kind of, things like this highlight it, and you think, oh crikey, yeah, it was so different. And of course it then inspires you to look at it in perhaps a different way so next time.
Exactly, yeah. And that from my perspective, that is very tantric, because what you're doing is opening your perspective, opening up different ways of seeing things, receiving other people and receiving other possibilities, and that opens up many more ways of seeing the world. So from my perspective, that's a tantric experience.
Right, okay, that's good. I also felt it's something that I'd like to go back to on a, you know, again and do it again, because I'm sure it will change over time, and different moods, or just different, you know, different times of your life or whatever. It will be different, and it'd be quite interesting to explore how your body changes and reacts.
Indeed. And did you find for yourself that it brought you into listening at a different level to your own body?
I suppose it does. Yeah, I didn't go very deep, I think it's fair to say. So, but so from that point of view, I feel that having now sort of touched the surface, it'd be quite nice to do it again and then go a little bit deeper and connect with it even further.
Beautiful. Yeah, yes, indeed. And it is a practice. So it is something that would be a beautiful thing to do daily for a few weeks, for example, or once a week for a year, so that you keep tapping in. And it's a little bit like a meditation practice. You know, when you do meditation, you take yourself into a certain state. And then because you've taken yourself into that state, it becomes more accessible to you throughout the day and throughout your life. Again, when you call into your body, when you tap into your body and bring awareness to it, gradually over time, you'll become more aware of the sensations and feelings that are arising. You become more in tune with yourself. And when we become more attuned to ourselves, then we naturally become more attuned to other people. So we're expanding our experience and opening up our experience to include more of ourselves and more of each other.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. Okay, is there anybody else would like to? Sad. Sean.
Hi. What struck me is how caught I was in the story of my past experience during the meditation, and I was a bit disconnected to my feelings, or my feelings were dictating the story, you know, of not being good enough, for example. So I think the lady that Violet was sharing, how through experience she's learned to come out of the story and to be more with the feeling, and I think that's really helpful for me to find ways of getting in touch with my feelings and bypassing the kind of automated kind of messages that are going on in my head.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, indeed. And that's one of the ways, as I said right at the very beginning, that we limit our experience is by having a particular story. So it's like being identified with, and it narrows our experience. So to include everything we can witness that, and we can put the story aside and listen to ourselves and listen to our body through a different filter. We can get a little bit of distance from the story and listen to what our body has to say and what our feelings have to say, and even what different parts of our being have to say. So one of the things we do in our Tantra training is a lot of different parts work. So we might step into a different part. So there's a young part that has a particular story about something, but then there's also perhaps a very wise part of you, or a very adult man part of you that has a different experience. And so we can step into that part and see how we experience it from that part, and then bring it all back together again. So we begin to include more different parts, and rather than identifying with one.
Yeah.
Were you able to get more in touch with your body through the touch and through just the kind touch at the beginning? How was that?
Yeah, very much so. It felt very soothing, self-soothing to be, gently, massaging my arms and my shoulders. That was very healing. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Okay, so Violet, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on, I think that's a wonderful exercise, and it reminded me of something we did in a previous Conscious Cafe where we were talking about the choreography under the skin, and that really connected with, once you were going into the body and kind of feeling it on top, but also being aware of what's going on within the body. So I thought, I'd just kind of bring that up because it kind of deepened my experience thinking about the choreography under the skin, because, we've got so much going on in our body, but we're so often in our head and our story that we don't kind of allow ourselves to experience that choreography.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way. I've never heard that way of describing it, but that's exactly true. When we touch our body, or when our body is touched by anyone, it touches way more than the surface of our skin. Indeed, it touches all the feelings that flow and all the energies that flow underneath. And that's exactly what happens when we touch. Touch connects us, and it connects us with our feelings. So we come into our body, and from our body we come into our feelings, and from our feelings we come into our heart. And then we can connect to spirit. So all of the centers can begin to flow, and the energy can begin to flow together. And it begins in the body, which is why we start with touching the body. It's why we start with soothing and nourishing and nurturing the body, because it gives us access to those different layers. Yeah. It's a beautiful, I've never heard the choreography flowing underneath. It's exactly what
you will probably be able to say who actually said that, but it had quite a profound effect on me, that just way of looking at our bodies. It's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this just seems a good moment to mention Jan's book, which is recently published. It's called Living Tantra, A Journey into Sex, Spirit and Relationship. And you can order it from all bookshops. You can order it online. You can download it and you can listen to it. So widely available. And I have to say, I can't say I've read every word because there was so much in it. But everything I read, I learned from, and Jan has written it beautifully. So it's the culmination of her experience of teaching Tantra for so many years. And it's an absolute pleasure. And I know I'll be returning to different parts of the book, and especially now that I've experienced the exercise. In fact, it'll be a choice between what I'm going to do after this workshop.
Thank you, Judy. That's really kind. And just to say, there's actually lots of exercises in the book, and it's very much designed for you to have an experience of Tantra on your own, so that you can really experience it without having to be in a group or with anyone else. You can have an individual experience of Tantra through the exercises in the book. So you've had a little experience of that tonight. So hopefully that's opened a window. And Cora, you've got your hand up. Would you like to ask something?
Yes, it was sort of more of a comment, and that maybe I teach yoga, and I was thinking, I thought that thing about touching yourself with such sort of care, I thought that would be a lovely thing to add, because we always talk about self-care and self-compassion. It's very important, and in a way I felt using that as part of a yoga practice would make the yoga more powerful, that you would sort of give people that opportunity just to be in touch with their body and to care for it. And then, because you always say when you do yoga, take care, listen to your body. And I thought that was such a lovely exercise that I'll use that again. So thank you.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Cora. Yes. It's it's a way into kindness and compassion towards ourselves, and at the same time connecting with the body, both of which are really important and the foundation for going forward in Tantra in any way. Because like I said right at the beginning, unless we're connected with ourselves, we cannot connect with anybody else. If I want to be intimate with you, I have to be here so that something can happen in between us. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Let's see. Mariana has got her hand up.
Yes, hi, thank you.
Hi, Marianne.
Hi, just really low, adding onto what Cora just shared, I just loved how incredibly simple that exercise was of, you know, just holding ourselves and being kind and having this touch, and how profound the effect is that we tend to, we had a lovely group of 3, and we shared how we tend to be sort of focused on the outside, looking out, and we sort of forget to just look in and be with ourselves, and we can feel, you know, lonely looking out, and actually just holding ourselves makes us feel sort of supported and nourished and warm, and also got a sense of expansion as well just by holding myself. So just wanted to share how I love simple exercises that have such a profound effect. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see. So we've got a few more minutes. Let's go on to, we'll do another little practice. And this is more using your mind and reflecting back, but it's also about feelings. Now, we've done something that hopefully has got you into connection with your feelings and your body. And what I'd like you to do now is begin to reflect on the words yes and no. So this is very much about our intimacy with ourselves and knowing whether we've got a yes or a no to any invitation that happens in life. You can probably reflect back just through the last day or two and find moments where people have asked you whether you want to come to the cinema or meet them for a coffee, or perhaps if you're in some kind of a relationship, they might have invited a particular kind of touch and you've had to say yes or no. Now, in any situation where we have to say yes or no, most of us, for a lot of the time, say yes when we mean no and no when we mean yes, which is a bit confusing. So just take a moment, maybe close your eyes and think back to moments when you know that you've said yes when it wasn't what you meant and not what you wanted to say, but you said yes. And perhaps even times when you've wanted to say yes, but you've said no. And there's all kinds of very good reasons why we do that. Usually tracking back to our childhood, because no's are kind of a dangerous word. It's not something we want to hear. And it's not usually something we want to say. And when I ask people why they've said yes when they meant no, a very common answer is, well, because I didn't want to hurt the other person. And of course we don't want to hurt anyone else. And yet, when we say yes when we mean no, it means that we're getting into a situation where the other person is doing something or engaging with us when we don't actually want to be there. And most of us wouldn't actually want to be put in that position, actually. It also means we're not honoring ourselves. And if we don't honor ourselves, we can't possibly be honoring the other person. So it puts us in a strange double bind, and it protects us usually from the pain of other people hearing the no and the pain of our own no. So just take a moment and feel into what it would mean to you. See if you can find a concrete situation in the last few days or week where you've said yes when you really wanted to say no, especially in relationships. But it might not even be, it might be something much more simple than that. And what it would mean if you could say a simple yes when you meant yes, and a simple no when you meant no, and know that it would be received. What would that mean to you? Especially in relation to touch and relationships and being in communication. What would it mean if you knew your no was welcomed and trusted, and that you could receive and welcome a no from other people so that your communication would be very clear? How would that affect your life? Let's see if there's any comments or questions, or anyone who's willing to share an example. I know this is getting a bit edgy and intimate, so it takes a bit of courage to share at this point.
I can share.
Yes, please do. Yeah. Who's that?
It's not in terms of an intimate relationship, although there's been plenty of that. But in terms of accommodating family members.
Yes, yeah.
And them being really so important to me, and yet maybe some conflict with what I'm wanting and needing at any one moment that doesn't match. So, for example, at the beginning of the exercise, there was an urgent knock on the door. The hot water system's given up. Somebody wanted to have a shower and already wrapped in their towel, and the water was cold. So, you know, it's like, okay. So I said yes. I'll, yeah. So there was a no to sitting and starting at the beginning of that exercise. Yeah. You know, I think life presents us with those choices constantly.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
And you're right. Sometimes it might not be something we'd want to do, but we consciously choose to do it because we're compromising, or we want to give it. It might not be our top choice, but we want to do it. And those are not really the situations I'm talking about. It's times when we say yes, when we actually really don't mean it, we don't want to say yes. And I think especially in terms of touch, it's often at the beginning of a relationship, but even not always, where even people who've been in a relationship for 20 years still sometimes say yes when they mean no. If we're just meeting somebody and they say they put their arm around us, or they invite us to hug, and we don't want to hug, it's too close at that moment, then we've got a choice to say, actually, that's a bit too much for me right now. That's not what I want. Or we go into the hug, or whatever it is we're being offered, and let ourselves be there when it's not what we want. Now, if we can get into a situation where we get used to saying what's true for us and speak honestly, we begin to develop deeper intimacy with whoever we're speaking with. And even when married couples do that, there's an exercise that we do where we start touching and like just giving or receiving touch and saying yes or no to all the touch, so that we literally have a running commentary of yes or no. And what that does is make a trust that we don't, that each person will honor themselves and look after themselves. And it means much more playfulness can happen, actually. Let's see, somebody just put something into the chat. A welcomed no opens a genuine yes. That's exactly true. When we can trust our no, the yes can be much more genuine and open. Yes, that's exactly right. Julia wanted to say something. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this example is really old. It's like 10 years old, but it was really personal. So when I first got together with my ex, so the first time I kissed him, I actually didn't want to kiss him. But I think what comes up for me is when no one asks the question. So it's not like someone asks and I say yes or no. It's like it's already happening. And I mean, that to sort of go away from that example a bit, one of the things I struggle with is when things are happening fast or even normal speed, like my processing speed, it takes me a while to notice if something's not all right for me, and then figure out how on earth can I express it. And in that particular example, it was like I liked him and I didn't want to give the message that I didn't, but I didn't want to kiss him in that moment. And so I did, and I was out of integrity. And then he invited me back to his, and I said no, and he was very disappointed by that and thought I didn't like him. So it kind of confirmed this thing of like, there's so much more going on than just what's right for me. It's like what is perceived as being communicated by our yes and no.
So in that situation, one of the things that you might practice doing when you meet somebody is saying to them, I really like you and I need you to know that I need to go very slowly. And when I go slowly, that's going to enable me to connect with you much more easily. So would you be willing to go really slowly? And would it be okay if I sometimes say slow, or even pause, or even no, not yet, because I'm not ready, because I need to go a bit more slowly. And I need to go slowly because I like you.
Nice, thank you.
And that will really help me to build intimacy.
I think sometimes I also worry about saying that I need to go slower in case then 5 minutes later I want to go really fast.
You know, I think once you've slowed things down, you still have an opportunity to say, oh, I'm ready now. Now I can go a little bit faster. And, you know, I think women are often thinking that they have to go faster than they want to, because in general, women have a perception that men want to go faster. And I've had a remarkable number of men, when we bring this up as a topic of conversation, say, actually, I usually want to go slower, but I think I'm expected to go faster. So I think it's not actually just women. I really genuinely believe that when we can begin to voice what we want and what we don't want, so that we can begin to trust each other, that a playfulness and a relaxation can come into it. So it's really worth practicing and having a conversation with, I think, right at the beginning, so that we can do that as a foundation. Thank you, Julie. That was really helpful. So let's have one last question, and then I think we have to finish. So Shabana, I don't know if you're... Yes, go ahead. Yes.
Hi there. That's really interesting, because it's like silence implies yes a lot of the time. My point was it's not so much with other people, it's with myself. I sometimes say yes when I mean no, and particularly in relation to my relationship with food, I find I end up in company being polite. So I know that wheat is not good for me, and yet a lot of the time when I go out or go to friends' houses, there's cakes and biscuits and stuff, and yet I do say yes when I actually mean no. And I don't know if there's something you can add to that, because I don't understand my behavior in a way, because I know that I want to say no, but I end up saying yes. It's a weird thing.
It's almost like there's two parts of you. I imagine that, I mean, one thing about wheat, and I personally, I also can't eat wheat, but I get quite strong reactions. So my body says the no for me. I know that if I say yes to it, I'm going to have a strong reaction. So that makes it easier.
Yeah.
But say something like sugar would be for me, like and wheat is often packaged with sugar. You know, it tends to be comfort food. So it's giving you something that's comforting.
Yeah.
I think when you pull apart that, so there's a part of you that wants the sugar, wants the comfort, and there's another part that clearly wants the sense of health in your body, the sense of well-being that you'll get from not having the wheat. Because I know that people who can't eat wheat in general feel quite uncomfortable when they do eat it. So I think that probably this is about now listening to the part that wants comfort and acknowledging it. So not pushing it away and pretending it doesn't exist, but listening, okay, yes, I really want the comfort of that. And then feeling for what the other part wants, which is, and I know that there's another part of me that really wants to feel good in my body. And that part wants to say no. So it's about listening to both, and there's a kindness in that. So as if on one hand you could put your hands out and say, you could even do this right now. On this one hand, I've got the part that wants the comfort, that wants the sense of like the sugar or the comfort food. That wheat is almost always comfort food, I think. I mean, even if it's pasta, even if there's no sugar in it, it's comfort food, right? And there's another part of me that wants my body to feel good. And then sometimes it might be about fitting in, and then, you know, in that situation, you can say, oh, I'm really going to enjoy watching you eat that. I'm going to enjoy watching you, and I'm going to participate by just enjoying your enjoyment. And I'm going to enjoy the fact that my body is going to feel a whole lot better if I don't eat it. How does that land?
Yeah. So what you're saying is, it does give me something. And that something is comfort, which is what I need at that moment in time. But then physically it's not doing me any good. So
yeah,
trying to balance and manage that. I need to think about it a bit.
Yeah. I think if you bring your attention to what you most want, which is almost inevitably going to be to feel good in your body. If you bring the focus there and really anchor in your body how good it feels when you don't eat wheat, and anchor that sense of well-being, that body memory will help you in the moments when the wheat's there and you could eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think we better hand over to Judy to finish up. I think I've already gone a little bit too far.
Well, thank you everybody for your questions and your comments. And Jan, as I said to you before, I think it's wonderful that being able to connect with so many people online in the work that you do enables everybody to have an experience of learning from you, both experiential and theoretical. And that is a wonderful gift of Zoom, because everyone who has been here today has truly benefited from the wisdom that you've had to offer and which you presented to all of us in the most gentle and compelling way.
Thank you.
So I'd like you all to just raise your hands and thank Jan.
Thank you.